Hey guys, Aaron CybertronVGC here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online regulation VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'm going to be showcasing a really unique Pokemon in Rhyperior. This team recently won a grassroots tournament over in Japan, and Rhyperior is super underplayed in the format, but it's incredible for a couple of reasons. First of all, it gets access to Lightning Rod, making it a super strong partner with Pokemon that normally don't want to take electric type attacks like Choice Specs Kyogre. Miraidon is everywhere in the format right now, and Rhyperior is such a good answer into those Miraidons. This Rhyperior also has Assault Vest, so you can take those special attacks that are non-electric type attacks, redirect moves like Volt Switch and Electro Drift away from your partners, and also be able to threaten a lot of damage. You've got high horsepower, you've also got moves like Crunch, for example, as well as Rock Slide for tons of damage across the board. And so, I'm really excited to showcase what Rhyperior can do in this format, as it's very underplayed. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down below, and thanks so much as always for joining me. If you enjoy, I'd really appreciate if you consider leaving a like in the video or subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a ton. Anyway, let's dive into things. If you're interested in trying out the team, the Rento code is on the screen, and there's also an accompanying PokePaste down in the description below. This is a team that won a grassroots tournament over in Japan, and it features Choice Specs Water Tera Kyogre, which is an absolute menace. Kyogre normally is going to struggle, of course, into electric type attackers, especially Miraidon, one of the most common Pokemon in the format, but that's what Rhyperior is here for. With Rhyperior, you can protect your Kyogre, and you can also protect your Calyrex with Fairy Tera to deal with opposing Miraidons. Iron Jugulis gives you a Tailwind route and also can be very disruptive with moves like Snarl and Taunt, where Urshifu and Amoonguss can also just provide a lot of damage and utility respectively. Overall, Rhyperior is such a cool Pokemon, and its ability alone makes it worth using, but it can also be a very powerful attacker, especially when you set up Trick Room for it with that Calyrex Ice Rider. So you've got a ton of damage across the board with this team, especially obviously coming from Kyogre, but also Calyrex, Urshifu, and Rhyperior. For some quick context, this team won a offline grassroots tournament organized over in Japan, and of course Rhyperior is a key part of it. The team referenced a couple of teams from other notable Japanese players and team builders listed in the tweet. One of my favorite things about this tweet is saying how if you use Fairy Tera and Rhyperior, you basically have a 100% win rate against Miraidon, which honestly does feel really, really true and speaks to the synergy that you have on this team with Rhyperior protecting both Kyogre as well as Calyrex Ice Rider. So wanted to showcase that this team is both creative in, of course, the offensive specs Kyogre as well as Rhyperior, and was good enough to win an entire offline grassroots tournament. Breaking down the team, the first Pokemon we have to highlight is Rhyperior. Now, why would you want to use Rhyperior? What is its niche in the format? The answer is simple. It's Lightning Rod, and it's just great base attack stat. Lightning Rod is an amazing ability because it allows you to redirect electric type attacks away from your teammates. And if you look at this team, you've got three things that are weak to electric in Urshifu, Jugulis, and Kyogre, and Calyrex doesn't love eating electric type attacks, especially, Choice Specs Electro Drift from Miraidon in terrain. So, part of this team is that it has two very powerful attackers in Kyogre and Calyrex Ice Rider, but this restricted duo is quite weak to electric type attacks and especially weak to Miraidon. So, without the Rhyperior, your Miraidon matchup would actually be really lackluster. Sometimes people use Rillaboom on compositions like this, but Rhyperior just unlocks a completely new dimension in terms of both defense as well as offense, right? So the theory behind Rhyperior is that you can switch it in or just have it out on the field, and then Lightning Rod will be able to redirect and basically nullify a Volt Switch or an Electro Drift. In addition, this team is really nice because you also have Fairy Tera on Calyrex Ice Rider. So Fairy Tera Ice Rider plus Rhyperior next to it completely obliterates Miraidon, right? For example, let's say you lead Calyrex and Rhyperior is not led, but then you switched it on turn 1. If your opponent clicks Volt Switch, nothing happens. Calyrex just Glacial Lances in return. If your opponent Electro Drifts, same thing. And if you go for that Fairy Tera, then they can't even Draco Meteor into your Calyrex, right? Calyrex will be immune to it, and then you will be able to get a Glacial Lance off in return. And so this combo alone is super, super nice into Miraidon-based compositions. Of course, Rhyperior also protects the Kyogre here, and this Kyogre is really designed to hit as hard as possible. This is Choice Specs Max Special Attack Water Tera Kyogre, right? So if you get a full-powered Water Spout off with this Kyogre, you will often be able to just one-shot so many different Pokemon in the format. Even things that resist it, like Assault Vest or Rillaboom, are still taking a ton of damage from this when you get it at full HP. So your goal when using this Kyogre is to set it up for success, set it up to get one or two big water spouts off, right? And how are you going to do that? Well, there's a couple of methods. You've got Tailwind from Iron Jugulis, which allows Kyogre to, of course, get the speed bump and then basically be able to outpace anything that doesn't already have speed control. You also have Amoonguss for redirection, option, right? So you could lead Amoonguss, Kyogre, and just Rage Powder into Water Tera, Water Spout. Or if you're up against like a really fast team that has really fast restricteds, Calyrex can set up Trick Room, and then you can get Kyogre out under the Trick Room. Kyogre is often going to click Water Spout, but Origin Pulse, of course, is going to be a move that you might click if you're either in the end game and you've taken some damage, or if you think that Kyogre needs to get multiple attacks off, and Water Spout won't necessarily get one-hit knockouts because you expect a defensive Tera, maybe you expect a Focus Sash on the opposing side. Thunder is really nice just to be able to threaten potential one-hit knockouts and give you some coverage into things that resist water-type attacks and opposing water-type Pokemon. And then you've actually got Tera Blast. Tera Blast is cool because this Kyogre actually does Tera really frequently, and of course Wide Guard is a huge pain for Water Spout and Origin Pulse, and you could of course run Hydro Pump, but Hydro Pump can miss and is not the most reliable attack, and so because Kyogre Teras quite frequently with this team, Water Tera Blast is really nice and can actually often catch your opponents off guard as well. So, of course, as mentioned, Rhyperior here designed to protect the Calyrex, but also the Kyogre. And I haven't even talked about Rhyperior's offense yet, right? So I talked about Lightning Rod. Rhyperior also has an incredibly high base attack stat. I mean, it's base 140, which is really no joke. Base 140 attack, and you have really good coverage, right? High horsepower, can do a lot of super effective damage in the format into Pokemon like Incineroar. Crunch, really good into things like Calyrex Shadow Rider and Lunala. Rock Slide gives you really good coverage across the board, and Counter is a really unique move. You're not going to be clicking it that frequently with this Rhyperior, but the idea behind Counter is that Rhyperior is just so naturally bulky, base 130 defense, even without any investment because of its bulk, you often will be able to survive a very powerful physical attack from the opposing side, click Counter, and then basically delete your opponent's HP and get a one-hit knockout onto them, which is really cool as well. So when you use Rhyperior, it has two purposes. The first, of course, is as a Lightning Rod bot to protect your Pokemon, especially Kyogre and Calyrex, but it's also for its offense. The main thing to note is that this is Assault Vest Rhyperior. It won't be able to protect itself, and it's really slow. So you often want to put it in positions where it can succeed under Trick Room, and that's why Calyrex, of course, is such a nice partner for it. If you set that Trick Room up, Rhyperior is incredible. Otherwise, you often will be getting outsped. Water Tera is really nice with the Lightning Rod synergy, but one thing to keep in mind is this does mean that you are consistently weak to Grass-type damage, so opposing Grass-type damage can be really scary. Otherwise, to round out the team, we already talked about Calyrex and the synergy it has with Rhyperior. The couple things to note here is that you're running close combat over a high horsepower to give you even more damage into things like Incineroar, and you actually have a little bit of speed investment here as well. The theory behind the speed is that you reach 154, so you outspeed 153 and everything lower when Tailwind is up, and so with that, you can outpace things like Admit, Max Speed, Urshifu, for example, which is really nice. Otherwise, fairly straightforward for Calyrex here. Just know that you're not max attack because you have some special defense investment as well as speed investment. You also have Choice Band Urshifu here. This Urshifu is quite bulky as you can see, and it doesn't invest a ton in speed, and part of the reason here is because you have Tailwind and Trick Room, and so you often will be setting up one of those for speed control. Fairly straightforward for Urshifu. Main thing to note here is that you do have the Grass Tera as a defensive Tera. This is also valuable because against opposing Amoongusses, you can just Grass Tera, be immune to Spore, and also ignore the Rage Powders. The Urshifu just does a ton of damage across the board, right? Especially given that you have Rain on this team as well. Final Pokemon is Iron Jugulis. This Iron Jugulis is designed to be really disruptive, right? Now, normally when you see Jugulis, you are going to see moves like Hurricane, Tailwind, and Snarl. Sometimes Air Slash over Hurricane on non-rain teams. But this set also has Taunt, so you know, there's good things and bad things. With Taunt, of course, you get a ton of good coverage. You can stop opposing setup. You can stop Trick Room. You can stop Redirection. You can stop Wide Guard. So it's a really nice move. It also means, though, you won't be able to protect. And so Jugulis is a Pokemon that I find I'm often either leading or just not bringing to the game at all, right? But if you lead it, it becomes really, really difficult to deal with like the threat of Tailwind as well as the threat of offense from things like Urshifu or Kyogre immediately. And so, yeah, in terms of ways that I like playing with the team, I think I often think about, first of all, what speed control do I want to opt for? Does it make sense to try to set up a Tailwind, get Kyogre out under Tailwind? Does it make sense to set up Trick Room? If I want to set up Tailwind, I think leads like Jugulis, Kyogre, Jugulis, Calyrex, Jugulis, Urshifu are all really solid. If I want to play towards Trick Room, Calyrex plus Amoonguss is really solid. And if my opponent doesn't have a lot of Pokemon that just outpace Kyogre, I will consider things like Amoonguss, Kyogre immediately to just Rage Powder, Water Tera, Water Spout. Like, I cannot express how powerful the Water Tera, Water Spout combo is. Rhyperior is a Pokemon I generally don't lead, but I like switching in when my opponent has potential electric type damage. I think if Rhyperior is out on the field immediately, your opponents will be less, prone to obviously clicking those electric type attacks. But if you have it in the back and you switch it in on turn one, they can be put into really difficult positions immediately. And so, yeah, those are some quick notes. In terms of weaknesses and things to watch out for, first of all, Rhyperior is incredibly weak to grass type damage because it can't get out of it with Tera, and so opposing Rillabooms, for example, I found to be actually quite annoying to deal with. Similarly, Rillaboom has a very nice matchup with the Kyogre because you can fake it out, you can Grassy Glide it before it even gets an attack off, and obviously you can resist the water type damage as well, and so grass type attackers can be a little bit scary. Rhyperior is also a Pokemon where if Trick Room isn't set up, like even with Tailwind up, this thing is not really outpacing most things in the format, and so you have to be very careful about it because it can just be a liability sometimes, right? It's also immensely weak to water type damage, and so you have to worry about opposing Kyogres, for example, opposing Urshifus, and so one of the other things to think about is with this team, you cannot protect very easily, right? No protect on Kyogre, Rhyperior, Urshifu, or Jugulis, and so you're a little bit more vulnerable to fake out leads. Jugulis, by the way, in particular, I think with the rise of Choice Scarf Miraidon, that can be a little bit scary because Scarf Miraidon will be able to just pressure damage onto you before you do anything. And so while you do have Rhyperior on this team, like for example, with Draco Meteor coming out immediately onto Jugulis is really scary. And if you don't Tera, it can just knock you out, right? Which doesn't feel very great. So that's something that's scary. I've also, going back to the theme of grass type damage, had a game where my opponent set up Trick Room. I was literally up 4 Pokemon to 1, but they had Grass Tera, Ice Rider with Seed Bomb and had set up grassy terrain earlier in the game. One-shot my Kyogre under Trick Room, and then they were able to just Glacial Lance everything else in the remainder of the game. And that was really, really scary to deal with. And so it speaks to how opposing Trick Room actually can be annoying sometimes based on your opponent's composition and which Pokemon you've brought. You obviously have Trick Room on this team. You've got slow Pokemon in Amoonguss and Rhyperior, but if you don't lean into the Trick Room Pokemon, for example, and you're up against a team that manages to set up Trick Room against you, that can be a little bit scary as well. Jugulis is also a Pokemon that can feel incredible, but also completely useless at times because Hurricane and Snarl don't exactly have the best coverage across the format. And one final thing that I want to point out is that Wide Guard is really good against this team. So a super well-played Lunala I actually found to be really annoying because you've got the Shadow Shield, and so Wide Guard prevents the Snarl, prevents Glacial Lance, Close Combat doesn't do anything, prevents Water Spell, prevents Origin Pulse. Your best means of dealing with it are going to be like Water Terra Blast, Crunch, as well as like Surging Strikes. But yeah, like a really, really well-played Wide Guard can be quite difficult to deal with as well. So those are just a couple things I wanted to note. We've got Zamazenta Miraidon here with Whimsicott, Chien-Pao, Incineroar, Ursaluna. So Rhyperior is looking intriguing here, obviously, because of Miraidon. This feels like a Trick Room game. Like, set up Trick Room, get Kyogre out under Trick Room. If I wanted to set up Trick Room, I think Ice Rider Amoonguss is probably my best bet. With Rhyperior Kyogre in the back. That's one approach. Like, I would love to bring Urshifu here mainly because of Zamazenta, and Surging Strikes in rain feels like it can demolish most of my opponent's team, but I do feel like all the other Pokemon are necessary here. Jugulis feels really bad into Whimsicott Miraidon. And part of the thing to think about is, like, we do have the Lightning Rod, but obviously Draco Meteor still exerts a ton of offensive pressure, so you gotta be quite careful for that. And it is Whimsicott Miraidon lead, okay. That works for me. I guess the only problem here is if Whimsicott taunts me on turn 1. The expectation here would be for them to Volt Switch, I would think. Volt Switch plus Taunt is definitely one possible play. They could also Draco, but you know, one really cool thing we could do here, Fairy Tera, which gives us immunity to Draco Meteor, Glacial Lance, and then switch into Rhyperior. So this could win us the game on turn 1. Basically, like, if they Volt Switch here, and they're not hard switching the Miraidon, Fairy Tera gives us immunity to Draco Meteor, and I have the immunity to electric type damage because of Lightning Rod. So Rhyperior on this team, I would think mainly is to protect the Kyogre, but it works really well in scenarios like this as well. So let's see. They don't Tera either. Okay, it's just Light Screen. That's totally fine with me. Preemptively against Kyogre. Draco into Calyrex. Beautiful. Okay. But basically, like, this covered for anything they could do, essentially, on turn 1. And that is a double knockout. So it would have been more satisfying to see Miraidon, of course, go for a electric type attack. But by switching in Rhyperior, I covered for, you know, Electro Drift. And that's the beauty of the Calyrex here. So kind of surprised to see a light screen on turn 1 rather than a potential taunt. Because I definitely could have set up Trick Room there. But it's going to be Ursaluna plus Zamazenta now, presumably. Yep. Amoonguss should be very good for us here. We still have Kyogre in the back as well. So, protect. And, like, this is why Rhyperior is really important on a team like this, right? Because it allows me to make a play like that on turn 1 without really taking any risk. So, I am happy to go for protect here. Protect counter would be cool. It's probably better to switch out here into Amoonguss. And then I can just Trick Room. So as long as Amoonguss isn't getting KO'd here. No Tera from their end. Okay. Behemoth Bash. Yep. Good to confirm that. You would think it's just Earth Power here. And if it's Earth Power, then Rage Powder Trick Room always wins the game next turn. Yep, it is. Cool. Bash should not KO us from that range. Trick Room. Rage Powder. There's no Tera from their end. Okay, as long as this doesn't KO us, we should be good. Yep, it doesn't. Perfect. Blood Moon also comes out. That makes sense. I was thinking here, I was surprised to not see normal Tera. Like, their win condition was basically crit Amoonguss, normal Tera, try to one-shot Ice Rider. But Trick Room not get set up. Perfect. And now I can bring out the... I mean, I can really bring out either of these. But I am down to go into Kyogre first here. Force them to click Wide Guard. Rhyperior is cute, but it's not actually getting a one-hit knockout onto either of these. Kyogre just exerts obviously way more offensive pressure. So I'm happy to just click Close Combat now into Ursaluna and Water Spout. They'll probably Wide Guard here, but... I guess they could theoretically still have a chance if you were Ghost, Tera, Ursaluna this turn. But no Wide Guard comes out, no Tera either. So, is that Sash? Yeah. Sash Ursaluna is occasionally used. It's interesting because you obviously don't have as much burst power with no Life Orb, but it means that you can get multiple attacks off. And so that does actually let them get an Earth Power off into us, but it's fine. Specs Water Spout comes out. Does not get the knockout onto Zamazenta, but brings it quite low. Ursaluna faints. They'll go for a body press or a bash here. It's bash into Kyogre. Okay, not sure. Understand that one a ton. Wonder if it was a misclick or they meant to, yeah, like target Ice Rider or meant to click body press there. Like, yeah, I've just, it would make no sense for them to not have body press, and I already committed Tera there as well. But it may have been one of those games where my opponent felt like the game was just kind of over, honestly, and it really was. Like, that's why I felt pretty confident once I got the turn 1 off that the game should just be won. So this is the beauty of having a Lightning Rod user on your team, all right? It means that you don't have to worry about Miraidon nearly as much. And like turn 1, we basically covered for anything they could have gone for. The worst outcome probably would have been something like Fairy, Tera, Dazzling Gleam. But then even if you do that, you're locked into Dazzling Gleam, and then Rhyperior just hits the field and then pressures onto the Miraidon slot with high horsepower, right? So even though Rhyperior didn't actually do any damage in this game, it allowed me to make a very safe play turn 1. Trick Room also looked really good into my opponent's team, but I just didn't want to Trick Room in front of a Whimsicott that could taunt me. And then, like, imagine if I, like, Rage Powder Trick Room turn 1, Amoonguss faints, and then they taunt me. It's actually kind of an awkward position from there. And so, because then the following turn, they could, like, switch Miraidon onto Zamazenta. So I figured in this position, if I can knock out the Miraidon, catch my opponent off guard, that's incredible for us. And then, yeah, the Fairy, Tera plus Lightning Rod combo makes Miraidon miserable. Whoa, this is a fascinating team. Miraidon, Shadow Rider, Chestnut, Heatran, Shampoo, and Garganacl. Okay, a lot of kind of one-ofs here. I did feature Chestnut on a team pretty recently, actually, and it was really cool. If you haven't seen that video featuring Scovillain as well, highly recommend it. Chestnut has an incredible game in one of the games in that episode. Garganacl is something I feel like I haven't seen since early Scarlet and Violet. Heatran also feels not very common. There is obviously multiple wide guard users, though, in Chestnut and Garganacl, so Kyogre actually does have to be quite careful. But, I mean, Rhyperior is incredible into their restricteds and into Heatran. So that's probably a bring. I think we bring Jugulis into this one. And then... yeah, I mean, it would be Jugulis, Rhyperior, Ice Rider, Kyogre. That feels okay. I actually think there's a world in which we could drop Ice Rider here. But it's pretty solid into Miraidon, as demonstrated in that previous game. So I think we'll keep it. Okay, honestly, I'm down for Jugulis, Kyogre, Rhyperior, Ice Rider. I think Amoonguss is, like, bringable here, even with Miraidon, but it's not incredible. And I think Urshifu's offense is actually quite tempting, especially with Grass Tera on it. Because, like, the combination, I think, of Jugulis plus Grass Tera Urshifu is quite powerful. But, let's see. Chestnut Miraidon. Okay. I wonder if it's Electric Seed Miraidon. That was the set that we were using previously. So the expectation here is, what, for them to wide guard turn 1? Quick Drive activates. It is Electric Seed. Interesting. Okay. So I expect them to wide guard here on turn 1, to which I would love to Hurricane, but this could just, like, protect itself, right? Miraidon could go for, like, Fairy Tera. It could just Draco Meteor me. This is actually a really interesting position, honestly. I would love to Hurricane this, personally. Hurricane, switch into Rhyperior. But there's a good bit that can go wrong with this, right? They could just go Fairy Tera Dazzling. They could Draco Meteor me. But, hilariously enough, Chestnut actually is a pretty big problem. But if we get rid of it, then Rhyperior plus Ice Rider looks really good. Beautiful. Okay, I'm very happy with this. Okay, they go for wide guard. We don't get baited. Hurricane comes out. One-shots Chestnut. Beautiful. Oh, and they go for Volt Switch. That was the perfect turn 1 for us. Okay, nice. But like I said, I think there's a good bit that could go wrong there because you could just protect Chestnut. Like, the reality is Kyogre is not really threatening that much, even with Water Spout, since you resist with both Pokemon. Chien-Pao comes out now. Okay. Could be Draco Meteor now. I can Tailwind, but I can also Snarl. I think it's probably better to Tailwind, though, just so to make sure Kyogre outpaces these. So I'm down to go for a Tailwind here. Our last one's probably going to be that Shadow Rider. I think I'm down to just Tailwind Rock Slide here, honestly. Miraidon pivots, that's fine. Yep, into Calyrex. Okay. Now, Rhyperior is still obviously going to be really slow, but the Tailwind is mainly to set up for Kyogre later on. It'd be interesting to see who Chien-Pao targets here. Okay, crash into Jugulis. That's perfect for us. I don't mind Jugulis fainting here. Rock Slide should actually do really meaningful damage. Super effective on a Chien-Pao. Sword of Ruin onto the Shadow Rider. Looks like we're going to miss here onto Pao, which is actually kind of annoying. That does so much to Calyrex, though. Wow. Yeah, so I'll bring out Kyogre now. I don't love the miss, but I think it's still fine. If we didn't miss, like, Kyogre just runs away with the game at this point. But since I've set up Tailwind, I think it's still okay. Yeah, there's so many turns of Tailwind left. Water Tera on this, by the way, just completely demolishes Miraidon in the endgame, which is awesome. So I think I can go Water Spout here, Water Tera with this. and just go for Crunch into Pow. I actually think it may have been worth it to Water Tera last turn, because Rhyperior was in such like a solid offensive position, and Miraidon like is likely to switch out in that spot, and it would have covered for Icicle Crash into the Rhyperior slot. Calyrex protects. Yeah, I think it makes sense to go like protect and then try to maybe like Crunch or Sucker Punch Kyogre. And this is where if I didn't miss the Rock Slide, the Chien-Pao just faints. You don't get any damage into me. Now I'm at risk of like eating up a critical hit, for example, since, yeah, Sash on Chien-Pao. But honestly, this Rhyperior kind of just 1v2s Calyrex Miraidon. So even if I lose Kyogre, I still feel fine. They actually Icicle Crash into Rhyperior. Perfect. We take that like a champ. It does actually flinch us, but that's fine. Water Spout now again, and what's their best bet? Protect, like multiple double protects. I just have 2 turns of Tailwind left, so it's really hard for them, I think. Yeah, and then I will might as well High Horsepower here to cover for a Miraidon switch in. If I were them, I would switch Calyrex out. Protect Chien-Pao. Okay, Calyrex does get the double. That's fine. They're going to Sucker Punch us. Also fine. Like, I still don't really see how you're going to beat Rhyperior in this endgame, right? Thanks to Water Tera Lightning Rod. It just hard wins against Miraidon. Like, the only thing they could click is Draco Meteor, but then if you Draco Meteor, you are just so much weaker afterwards, right? And we're Assault Vest as well. So even with the Rock Slide miss, even with the double protect, we're still in total control of this game. And it really came from that turn 1, honestly. It's like I got the perfect turn 1, and it put my opponent in a huge deficit. But yeah, I think this is why Rhyperior is such a cool pick. If your opponent has Miraidon on their team, they have to second guess every single move that they click. Scarf Miraidon could have been spooky for us if they were that, but yeah, I can just Water Spout and High Horsepower again. Okay, Calyrex goes for a triple, does not get it. Specs Water Spout here, knocks out Calyrex, very nice. Kind of looks like Assault Vest Miraidon, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, they're just gonna offer Dazzling Gleam, and as you can see, Rhyperior takes that like a champ. High Horsepower comes out, and it feels so good for Rhyperior to deliver the finishing blow there. Yeah, I think this was such a solid game for Rhyperior, right? Able to soak up that Volt Switch on turn 1, protecting the Jugulus, able to dish out so much damage as well with that High Horsepower and that Rock Slide. And like, yeah, Rock Slide, you know, connected on the Chien-Pao, that would have brought it down probably close to Focus Sash as well. And it did over 50% to Shadow Rider as well, right? And so even though this Pokemon is so slow with Assault Vest with Lightning Rod, it doesn't actually mind moving later. And we didn't get to use Counter in this one, but of course that's one of the cool things about it being kind of slow as well. But it was just an amazing game for Rhyperior here. Are we up against Michael Kelch? The one, the only MDB? Okay. I don't know if he's streaming right now, but if so, that's really cool. He's got Miraidon, Ice Rider, Incineroar, Amoonguss, Landorus, Urshifu. So, Miraidon comp. This is one of the most popular teams out there right now. It is actually scary because it's Choice Scarf Miraidon, which is pretty bad for Jugulus, right? Because you can just Draco Meteor us. Which often forces Tera out of us. We could go Kyogre Jugulus. I have to be very careful about how I approach dealing with their Ice Rider as well. Yeah, I'm leaning towards Kyogre Jugulus, Rhyperior Ice Rider in the back. Amoonguss could be brought for redirection. Actually, the more I think about it, the more I think Amoonguss isn't a bad lead here. I think Amoonguss Kyogre works as well. I'm just hesitant to bring Amoonguss because Miraidon's Electric Terrain obviously just renders it relatively useless in terms of being able to Spore, but I actually think Amoonguss Kyogre means that I can just get a couple of really powerful Water Spouts off early. But this is Michael himself, of course, 2-time regional champion this season, or special event champion, I should say. Urshifu plus Calyrex. Okay. I mean, it's banded Urshifu, right? Like, what is going to stop Water Spout plus Water Tera Water Spout plus the Tailwind turn 1, right? It's mainly the Tera type on the Calyrex, but I believe it's Fairy on this team. So, yeah. Doesn't this just wreck? I feel like we have a very advantageous lead matchup. Tera commit, okay. Into Urshifu. Stellar. It's probably, yeah, Ice Rider is going to protect, and then Urshifu is going to attack here, I think is what's happening here. Because this is Sash Urshifu. So I actually probably should have locked Origin Pulse, because I'm going to eat up way too much damage from close combat here. Oh, but Calyrex doesn't protect. That's huge. I think that's a really good trade then. But I still think Origin Pulse was probably the correct play, because I think Calyrex could so easily protect on turn 1 there. But it ends up working out since it didn't. Okay. Yep. CC. I think we survived this, but let's see. Yeah. Obviously super low though, which doesn't feel great. But I think eliminating Ice Rider is obviously a good start. You can Aqua Jet now to finish off Kyogre. Bring in Miraidon. If you bring out Miraidon, it's interesting. I could switch in Rhyperior. I've got Ice Rider in the back. Rhyperior is going to be really essential, but we need to knock out Urshifu. Oh, it's instant switching in. Huh. I didn't expect that. Protect Urshifu now, I think, is definitely a possibility. Tailwind is set up. You could obviously fake out Surging. Like, I kind of want to just click Water Spout and Snarl right now. The obvious play is what? Fake out Jugulis. Aqua Jet Kyogre. So I could switch out into Calyrex here instead. But because I have Rhyperior in the back, I think it's actually fine to go Spout and... Actually, probably better to just Hurricane here. Okay, fake out. Yeah, it's just a fake out Aqua Jet play. So I could have switched out there, but I figured he might try to read that, and if he tries to read it, I can win the game on the spot. So, it's fine. Now I can bring out the Calyrex. Okay. 2 turns of Tailwind left. One thing to think about is Trick Rooming on the last turn of Tailwind, by the way. But I think here we have close combat, so I can close combat Incin and Snarl. Yeah, the main debate in my head is, obviously I could have switched Kyogre out last turn into Ice Rider, but then if I get hit by Fake Out plus the Surging onto Jugulis, that doesn't feel great. The question then is, if they go for that and I bring Kyogre back in, would Kyogre be able to survive an Aqua Jet? Since the Stellar Tera had been committed. Okay, Urshifu detects. That's to be expected. Go for Snarl. Also, it's a little bit laggy right now. Apologize for that. Here's close combat. Oh, Instant survives on like 1 HP. I could have obviously read the Protect, but I figured we'd get the knockout there. But it's just U-turn, so I think that's fine. Although a KO there, I think, is game-winning. Miraidon out now. Question is also... like, last turn of Tailwind, a couple turns of Terrain. Hurricane here would obviously get the KO, but I think the play I'm leaning towards is just going for Glacial and switch in Rhyperior. That being said, he might just click Draco Meteor onto Calyrex. Or it could be Volt Switch into Jugulus. Yeah, like I'm leaning towards Glacial here, switch in Rhyperior. Shame we didn't get that KO though. So close. Yeah, Earth switches, that makes sense. Okay, I mean, I'm assuming it's Draco here into the Ice Rider, but let's see. Ah, he missed. Oh, but he targeted the Rhyperior slot anyway. Okay. So I think I would have won the game anyway, right? Because Glacial would have just gotten the knockout. Rhyperior doesn't really take that much damage from Scarf Draco anyway. Oh, wait, no. I still haven't won this. Tailwind Peter's out. But Miraidon has to move first. So you Draco into Ice Rider. It's going to be surging into Rhyperior. How bulky is Miraidon for it to survive? Wow. The survivals have been so clutch on his end in this game. Yeah, so it'll be Draco and a Calyrex, which I honestly expect to survive. Surging into this slot. I think it's okay to just Glacial. Rock Slide. There's Draco. Yeah, I mean, it's fine to lose both here to get Jugulus back in. The miss actually really hurt me. If he had hit, he would have been at -2, and then Draco doesn't KO Ice Rider, and then you can't knock out both of my Pokemon. But the miss actually ended up helping. So now the question is, does Aqua Jet Draco Meteor KO me? Because he's Scarf, so he will outpace me, right? Wow, I'm surprised he targeted the Jugulus out, but I guess he was probably expecting like a Protect on there, which made sense. Wow, that's an example of a miss that actually, yeah, really costs us. We'll see. I assume Aqua Jet Draco does KO me here, unfortunately, but... And I assume he should be faster with Miraidon. Yeah, I don't think I'm surviving Draco. Oh, just kidding. We survived. I could still miss Snarl, though. Okay, we're good. Nice. Yeah, because the Draco went into the Rhyperior slot, had it connected, I think... Yeah, it's like you have to Draco and Surging KO Ice Rider, otherwise Ice Rider Glacial just double KOs. But the survivals were really big in this game. Like, I didn't want to make aggressive reads. Urshifu being Focus Sash was also a big problem, but I also think him, yeah, giving up Ice Rider on turn 1 was huge for us, because like he could have easily gone Protect, and then just Stellar Close Combat, and him not doing that obviously gave me a pretty big edge. Rank number 33 here, and we've got Groudon Lunala with Incineroar, Flutter Mane, Bolt, and Chien-Pao. I don't love this. I think Rhyperior should be really good. I think Amoonguss should be good. Debating if I want to bring Urshifu. Jugulis is a weird one. It's really good into into Lunala. It's not good into Flutter. If I were my opponent, what would I go with? Groudon, Lunala. People love bringing Incineroar into this comp. Sash. Flutter, Groudon lead is a little bit spooky. I think Ice Rider's offense looks really good. The problem is, like, I think Amoonguss probably has to come out here for Spore Pressure. But then the problem is, like, I want to bring Jugulis, but I also want to bring Rhyperior. This is a much slower mode, whereas Jugulis would enable, like, a Tailwind route, but we'll see. I think this is scary for 2 reasons. My opponent has Sun, and they have Wide Guard. And that's a very nasty combination, potentially, to deal with. I don't know. Jugulis is interesting because it can Taunt, it can Snarl, but I also think Jugulis is very bad into Chien-Pao. It's very bad into Flutter Mane, Bolt. Lunala. Okay. Makes sense to just fake out Trick Room turn 1. No, you wouldn't Trick Room here. You'd actually just attack. I would love to go up Pokemon count, because then Water Tera Blast Kyogre is one of the main win cons to play towards in this one. But I'm thinking about just ripping Close Combat into Incin here on turn 1. Yeah, leaning towards just Sporing and Close Combating. Oh, interesting. They fake out Calyrex. Huh? Heat Wave. So, you know, in VGC, Incineroar is one of the most common Pokemon. And you know what one of its most common items is? It's safety goggles. So logically, I was like, okay, you know, Incin probably has the safety goggles, I'm going to ignore it. First of all, not only do they have the surprise Heat Wave, which is a move you almost never see on Lunala, they also have safety goggles. Wow. That is pretty gnarly. I could see them switching in Groudon now and going for Heat Wave. What do I even do in a response? Protect, Fairy, Tera, Trick Room is what I can come up with. They could just Moongeist Beam, like Flare Blitz, double up onto Calyrex now, though. Safety Goggles Heat Wave. That was literally, like, I could not invent a better item slash move combo for my opponent to have on turn 1. That's nuts. And I'm never going to expect that in best of 1 play. Okay, they do just Heat Wave again. If it's Heat Wave knockoff, like, and I set up Trick Room, I think it's actually still totally winnable. U-turn, that's also fine. Because we have Pollen Puff and Regenerator. I just can't believe that. Let's see what they bring out. It is Groudon just out immediately. So Sun is set up. Trip him up now. No Tera commit yet. Now you're going to tell me it's going to be Grass Tera Groudon. I feel it in my bones. I think I'm down to Spore here and switch into Kyogre. But I had to give up a lot of resources to get to this spot. So much damage on turn 1. Groudon kind of goes for the obvious protect, but it's still fine, I think. I'm assuming they're going to Moongeist Beam Amoonguss now, but if they Heat Wave, that'd be beautiful. Okay, Moongeist Beam and a Kyogre. I guess it could be worse. Switch Groudon out Wide Guard now is one play they could make. You would think they have Wide Guard, right? But I think I want to still keep them honest. So I'm still going to Spore here and Water Spout. Actually, probably better to Origin Pulse. Yeah, they do switch. Raging Bolt as a 4th here is really strong. Sinsin. This is like where, like, I said I wanted to commit Tera to Kyogre here to Terra Blast to get around Wide Guard, but I can't do that now, unfortunately. Oh, but there's no Wide Guard. Hold on. Hold on. I am faster, and I miss Lunala. It means I don't break Shadow Shield, unfortunately. Okay, that's a bummer. Moongeist Beam Amoonguss. Do I survive this? It's gonna be close. It does just KO me. That's not good. Not breaking Shadow Shield there was really rough, unfortunately. But I could have Water Spouted. I just didn't know who'd be faster between Lunala and Kyogre, and if they Moongeist Beam me there and outspeed me, and then I click Water Spout, it's a complete nightmare for me, which is why I didn't want to go for that. But that stings. Amoonguss fainting there is also unfortunate. I thought there was a chance we could survive. But yeah, if the Origin Pulse had connected, I'd be able to just surprise my opponent and then go for Crunch onto Lunala, which would have been huge, but I can't do that anymore. I guess I'll still bring out Rhyperior. Now they can bring Groudon back in, yeah. 2 turns of Trick Room left. I've got Crunch. I mean, there is a chance I'm just faster with Kyogre under Trick Room. Probably not, though, right? What is their last one going to be? Regardless of what it is, I think it's going to be tough. I'm actually thinking about going for a Rock Slide here because I think Flinch would be huge. So Rock Slide switching Calyrex. Because the thing about Crunch is I'm not knocking out Lunala with Shadow Shield up anyway. If I Rock Slide and I get a Flinch right now, then I actually pressure with Crunch into Water Spout, or Crunch into Origin Pulse, or Glacial Lance, I should say, with Calyrex out. So it's the last ditch effort, but okay. They go for Tera. Show me Fire Tera Groudon, no Wide Guard, Rock Slide, Flinch. Tera Lunala. Oh, interesting. It actually was Fire Tera, but it was on the Lunala. Okay. Well, if they're not Wide Guarding, this Rock Slide actually ends up being pretty good for us. Nice play. Fire Tera Wide Guard. Yeah, I think that's really smart. That covers for basically anything I could do. It's a really unique Lunala set. Fire Tera makes total sense, though, because they had Heat Wave. And unfortunately, they do not miss Precipice Blades. Okay. Oof, so much damage onto me. But I think I wouldn't have won this anyway, even if they missed. Basically, the problem is my best way of dealing with Groudon is Kyogre. The rest of my team, I mean, I have Glacial Lance, I guess, but like this Lunala is just such a nightmare for me to deal with. So, high horsepower, Origin Pulse, but honestly, I think, yeah, even if I had hit earlier with the Origin Pulse, I still think because they had Fire Tera up their sleeves, like I would have just gone Crunch, they would Fire Tera, and I would just lose the game anyway. I just fell behind way too much in the early game, and a big reason for that is because they had this crazy Safety Goggles Heat Wave set. They Wide Guard plus Protect, which actually makes a lot of sense. That might seem a little bit unintuitive, but wow, High Horsepower does not do a lot there. Yeah, the reason this works is because you get to stall out Trick Room. Then Rhyperior can't go for any crazy shenanigans. Trick Room expires, but now you just Wide Guard again. I guess there's a way to win if for some reason they either misclicked or if Groudon misses Precipice Blades onto Rhyperior. But they have High Horsepower as well. Okay. And they're faster. Yeah, I think this game highlights how good Wide Guard is against our composition, right? And in the end, like, we didn't see Flutter, Chien-Pao, or Raging Bolt. They obviously have to have one of those in the back, but Jugulus may have actually been okay into, like, an Incineroar plus Lunala lead. But yeah, I think here it's truthfully just this, like, really crazy tech of safety goggles completely catching me off guard, plus Heat Wave, right? Because, like, normally on turn 1, I shouldn't take that much damage on both Pokemon, but they actually did get a ton off. If I had spored the instant slot, maybe it would have been better for me as well. I could have maybe hard switched in Kyogre immediately on turn 1, which would have worked out okay as well. But the reality is with so many, like, normally I would bring Jugulus into a Lunala matchup, but Jugulus just felt really bad into, like, the non-restricted mons of my opponent's team. But given that they didn't even reveal those non-restricted mons, like, maybe we kind of had to bring Jugulus. But yeah, I mean, it's a great example of a game where my opponent played really well. And like a single surprise, like safety goggles, Heat Wave, just gave my opponent a huge lead on turn 1. And it was really hard to come back from. I think maybe what I could have also done was Rage Powder Trick Room. Because what I needed to do in this game to win was actually Water Tera, Kyogre, and Terra Blast everything with it. But that's not a very easy setup. And the thing is, I didn't go for Rage Powder Trick Room because I was like, oh, you can just switch in Groudon out and click Heat Wave, double knockout, which would have been really bad, right? So I was trying to get around that possibility. And they did end up being Fire Terra, but crazy set. All right, we're up against Topo, who is a popular streamer, generally uses Hard Trick Room, and to no surprise, he's got Hard Trick Room here. So, Hard Trick Room, ADD Ice Rider, Urshifu, Palkia, Ursaluna, and Annihilape. What do I want to do? Annihilape lead is spooky. How fast is my Jugulus again? 158. I mean, Jugulus has Taunt. Rhyperior, Water Tera under Trick Room is a huge option for us. There's no Wide Guard either. Amoonguss. Kyogre, Rhyperior, Ice Rider, so I'm thinking about this. I really thought about bringing Jugulus. That might seem really weird into a Trick Room match, but like Taunt plus Snarl plus Hurricane's not actually bad. That being said, I still don't love it, which is why I'm dropping it. Like, it can't protect, which is a huge liability. If Trick Room gets set up, Jugulus is literally more than useless. It just actively takes up a slot. Dual restricted, Palkia, Calyrex, okay. I am leaning towards... The question is what Tera Calyrex is, but I'm leaning towards just going for Spore onto Palkia, Water Tera, Water Spout turn 1. It might just be Glacial Land, Spatial Rend coming out. Not knowing the Tera on Calyrex makes this a little tricky. Yeah, I think I'm going to go Spore, Palkia, Water, Tera, Water Spout. If Calyrex doesn't have a good defensive Tera or Protect turn 1, we just blow it up immediately. Palkia then can't one-shot us, and then I put Palkia to sleep. I think what would likely happen here is either Protect and Palkia attacks on turn 1, or Calyrex defensively Terras. Yeah, it's going to be the Protect option. I think that's fine. Spout's not going to do a ton to Palkia. I mean, it's 4x resist, but this is also so powerful. It's probably still like 40-ish%, I guess. Yeah, right around the money. Oh. Goggles, Palkia. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. It's probably going to be Grass Terra on this too, isn't it? I just feel it in my bones. Glacial, Spatial Rend now. Pretty clean play to make. Okay, I'm going to Protect Switch into Calyrex here. The hope is that they are Grass Tera, and then they go for Grass Tera here. And I think Grass Tera makes a lot of sense into this composition. And then I can Glacial or Pollen Puff next turn. Okay, there's the Tera. Good. Show me Grass Tera. It's very anti-Amoonguss, but I think that's what you need to have on a Heart Trick Room team. Yeah, so now at least I have Glacial Lance Pressure this next turn, which is good. You could low-key Hydro Pump my Ice Rider right now, though, which is spooky. Or I can get crit by Spatial. Okay, not a ton of damage. That's fine. Spatial Run comes out. We survive. Alright, not bad. So I have Pollen Puff here. The play I'm leaning towards is actually just going for Pollen Puff onto Calyrex and then Glacial Lancing. I think I like that. Okay, he goes for Glacial. Amoonguss survives. Brilliant. We get our Glacial off. Huge. Both survive, but that's okay. Spatial Rend again. No crit. Okay, fantastic. Pollen Puff was huge for us here. 2 turns of Trick Room and Rain. Scarf Annihilate endgame is still really scary, so I have to be very careful about that because I can't protect very easily. But I think here we just go for another Pollen Puff. And Glacial Lance. So, weather the storm somewhat, but still doesn't feel great. But Safety Goggles is just a really good item into this composition, since Amoonguss, I think, is such a key member in a lot of matchups. Palkia swaps out, makes sense. Urshifu in. I wonder if Calyrex was in Pollen Puff KO range. I'm not sure. Because it may have been better to knock out Calyrex there with Pollen Puff. But this is still fine, I think. Especially because I do have close combat. +1 close combat, I think, should KO Calyrex, which is a pretty big deal. Okay. And our Kyogre is still at full HP, so the main thing is I could bring out Rhyperior. Just worried that Aqua Jet and Rain one-shots us. So I'll bring Kyogre out. Oh, Annihilate comes out immediately. Okay. I mean, that's great for us, right? It's the last turn of Trick Room and Rain. This should be Choice Scarfed. I think I am down to go for... The main thing I need to respect is, like, Iron Ball or Min Speed Urshifu, right? Min Speed Choice Band Urshifu, maybe? So I think I want to go Origin Pulse here. Close Combat into Urshifu. Huh? That is not what I expected to be slower. It's fine, right? I think. I live on literally 1 HP. And I miss Origin Pulse. But I think that was Choice Band, so I think it's okay. I actually have... Wait, what the... The Iron Ball was on Annihilate? I mean, that makes sense as to why you brought it out. I guess I could have sniff tested that out. But if that's banned at Urshifu, Origin just double KOs. And the fact I also survived on 1 was nuts, but that should be banded. Kyogre is faster here. That was one of the craziest turns I've ever seen. Origin Pulse. Urshifu can't protect, whereas Palkia could, theoretically. I'm trying to see if I miss... Who should I be targeting? They could protect Palkia. If I miss Urshifu, they could still miss... Yeah, I think I'll high horsepower into Urshifu. I miss again. Okay. I mean, it's still fine, right? If you close combat, then it's -2, and then high horsepower should KO you in return. I sure would hope so. High horsepower is actually the only... Like, high horsepower into Urshifu was the only correct move there. Okay. Connects. Okay. Wow, that was crazy, though. I did not expect the Iron Ball to be on the Annihilate. That's really cool. I love that gamble, honestly, because when people see this team in Team Preview, you almost always assume Choice Scarf. Which is why I was confused he brought it out, but as soon as he brought it out, I should have considered the possibility. I even mentioned, like, you know, slow Urshifu, but slow Annihilate totally makes sense as well. But shoutouts to Kyogre for surviving with exactly 1 HP there. That was super, super clutch. Absolutely crazy game, though. Should I have brought Rhyperior in first, then? No, I think I actually had to bring Kyogre out there, because Rhyperior would have not done anything into Urshifu or the Annihilate ultimately, whereas Kyogre had so much offensive pressure, so I think that was correct. But yeah, we run into a lot of tricky things here, right? It was like Safety Goggles, Palkia, Grass Tera, Ice Rider, Min Speed Annihilate, being able to outpace us under Trick Room and Choice Band Urshifu, but we were able to deal with all of those still, which was nice. But I think some of this I could have anticipated, especially Goggles, Palkia, as well as the Annihilate. But it's just hard to, like, even if, like, I had thought about it, I still don't know if I would have played that differently, quite frankly. So, yeah. Okay, Lunala Ice Rider. NDD hands Incin Ursaluna. Trick Roomy. Wide Guard from Lunala is a pretty big problem. Kyogre looks really good here. Like, I think the main thing to respect is Fake Out Trick Room turn 1, but I think I like Jugulus Kyogre here. They have nothing that outpaces Kyogre. Water Spout does so much damage to everything, and then Jugulus can taunt on turn 1, which is a pretty big deal. And probably Rhyperior. Low-key, it actually could be Amoonguss fourth over Ice Rider here, because Amoonguss under Trick Room actually can operate pretty well, whereas Ice Rider's not doing a ton to my opponent anyway. Yeah, I actually think I'm kind of down for that. It's a gamble to take, but I don't know. I think, like, Ice Rider's purpose here is against opposing Ice Rider and Lunala. Like, that's actually 2 of the worst restricteds for Ice Rider to go up against, right? Wide Guard threat plus close combat doesn't do anything into Lunala. Glacial Lance does minimal damage. You have to break through Shadow Shield as well. Whoa. Okay, interesting. It's Lunala, Ice Rider lead immediately. So Wide Guard Trick Room is the play I would expect my opponent to make here on turn 1. To which I'm thinking about just going Water Terra Blast, Hurricane. If I knock out Ice Rider, I don't see how they deal with the Amoonguss under Trick Room. The problem here is they could theoretically just protect Trick Room. That's a huge gamble to take, in my opinion. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. So that's good. Should get the KO, I think, with this. Unless they're Assault Vest Ice Rider. But if you're AV, that means you're not setting up Trick Room, which would be fine. Nice. was a crit, but I really don't think that mattered. It's Water Tera, Choice Specs, Rain Boosted Tera Blast. So what they bring out, Fake Out User, Indeed. So you could pretty easily follow me now. You could theoretically Wide Guard. Ooh, nice. Okay, we see Psychic Seed, so that means you're not Safety Goggles, which is a big deal. Follow Me Trick Room is one play to respect. Wide Guard Trick Room also another play. I'm actually down to switch in Rhyperior right now and click Snarl. I don't care if they set up Trick Room. I also don't want to give them a free switch in because right now the duo they have on the field is actually kind of passive and I can take advantage of that. Rhyperior under Trick Room is actually pretty sweet here. Yeah, they follow me. Cool. Nice. Snarl double connects. Trick Room probably goes up now. Yeah. So the main thing is the angle for Ursaluna to come out. Leftovers Lunala on a comp like this. Interesting. Huh. I don't know if I actually would have expected that. I've got Crunch, so Crunch is pretty good right now. If you're my opponent, I think you want to switch in the Ursaluna, so I would personally swap Lunala out into Ursa. Lunala out into Ursaluna, and then follow me here, maybe. Okay, I'm down to just Crunch and Snarl. Oh, they just forfeited. Okay. If they had Ursaluna in the back, I think it was still worth playing out. But if they didn't, I think then, yeah, I could see why they forfeited. Because with Ursaluna, I think you can go follow me, switch in Ursa, at least sacrifice Indeedee, get Ursaluna out, and then Flame Orb is activated, and you have a couple turns of Trick Room to work with. It's still going to be hard for my opponent, but it's not unwinnable, because I don't have Protect on the Kyogre or the Jugulus. And so even though obviously we were like off to a really, really strong start in that game, like I didn't feel like I had it won by any means because Ursaluna under Trick Room is really scary. It also begs the question whether or not I should have just brought Ice Rider as the fourth, because like Amoonguss actually isn't really that valuable if Flame Orb is activated on Ursaluna. However, the argument you could make for Amoonguss is that it does have Rage Powder, so you can redirect a really powerful Facade or Headlong Rush away from Kyogre, and then Kyogre would be able to just Tera Blast. But yeah, I think like having the conviction to go for the turn 1 play that we did gave us a huge edge here. Alright, we've got Miraidon, Frigoref, Grimmsnarl, Rock Pond, Ice Rider, Incineroar. No Whimsicott, no Tailwind Pressure. I think Rock Ogerpon is really scary. That might single-handedly be the best Pokemon against us, actually. So even though we're up against a Miraidon, I think the Rock Ogerpon causes some pretty major issues. How do we deal with Rock Ogerpon? Urshifu? Honestly? But then if it's Urshifu, I need Jugulus, which I don't love. Okay, I think I'll go Ice Rider, Urshifu, Rhyperior, Kyogre. The scary thing here is I'm really slow with this. But yeah, I think Rock Ogerpon is maybe the absolute best Pokemon you can have against this composition because it threatens everything for super effective damage, more or less, before Tera and after Tera, other than Amoonguss. The main thing is Amoonguss feels very bad to bring into this matchup because of Miraidon, right? I just like can't Spore nearly as easily with it. It's Calyrex Grimmsnarl to start, which I think I'm okay with here. To me, the main question then is, in this position, are they gonna have Fake Out? Pretty easily switching to Kyogre turn 1 and just Surging Strikes. Get rid of Grim. I think I'm down for that. And then what I'm thinking is I can trap the Miraidon in with the combination of Fairy, Tera, Calyrex plus Rhyperior. I could also have Kyogre plus Rhyperior out next to each other, right? The main problem with Kyogre Rhyperior is I'm still at risk of eating up a Draco Meteor. No Rock Ogerpon to start, though, which is interesting. If I were my opponent, I would go, yeah, Grim Ice Rider, Ogerpon, Miraidon in the back. So I'll have to see if that's what they do indeed have in the back. Okay, they set up Reflect here on turn 1, which I'm totally okay with. Should be able to just, yeah, demolish Grimmsnarl here. Maybe it was worth getting the damage onto Ice Rider on turn 1, but I did not want to deal with Thunder Wave shenanigans. And yeah, it's not like we KO Ice Rider there anyway. Oh, it's actually the Leech Seed set. Okay. That's good to know. It's fine with me, I think. So now you can switch in Miraidon if you want, right? Yeah. The main thing with Miraidon here is you obviously pressure with Draco Meteor. Draco Meteor. If you Draco Meteor, though, you're just so much weaker afterwards. Like, Draco Meteor Glacial Lance is the play they could make right now. I would Draco Kyogre here, personally. Okay, I'm going to switch in Rhyperior. Surging Strikes Calyrex. I think the scariest would be Draco into the Urshifu slot Glacial. They're going to Tera, okay. Interesting. It could just be Fairy Tera Dazzling, I suppose. But they Tera Calyrex, okay. Into water, that makes sense. Okay, it is Electro Drift here. So that works, but I'm probably eating up a Glacial Lance this turn, which is obviously not the most ideal. Like, I actually wonder if it may have been better to have saved Rhyperior. I obviously could have switched Urshifu out there as well, but I think we have to respect Draco Meteor coming out that turn. Yeah, it is Glacial. Okay. Take a lot, but I don't faint from it. The big question I have here is it Specs Miraidon? Because basically what I want to do here is just go Tera with Rhyperior and knock out the Miraidon slot. I can high horsepower Miraidon and Surging into it. Yeah, they switch out. Probably into Ogerpon? They didn't bring Ogerpon. The Pokemon I was most scared of in this matchup, and it didn't even come out here. That's really interesting. Okay. Well, the upside of getting to an endgame like this is they have to lock into an attack with Miraidon, and I don't think it can be an Electric-type attack, so it has to be like Draco Meteor or Dazzling Gleam. Both which are okay for us to deal with. The main thing is we have to think about how we one-shot Calyrex in the endgame as well. Oh, they protect Calyrex, okay. But it makes sense. They probably want just more recovery here. But I think it's correct to Water Tera in this scenario. If I didn't Water Tera, I was at risk of, like, yeah, Miraidon switching and then Ice Rider just going for Glacial Lance here. And I think Rhyperior fainting is not great because then Miraidon can actually lock into an Electric-type attack. Calyrex is healed back up, but that's okay. Kyogre also has Thunder in the end game, so that's some more food for thought. My guess is that they lock Dazzling right now. Alright, I'm back in. If you lock Dazzling, Ice Rider Kyogre should just win the end game, I would think. I'll go for high horsepower here into Miraidon and Surging into it. The debate I have is whether or not I want to switch out into Ice Rider or Kyogre here, but I think the answer is no. Is the answer no? Like, do I just give up Urshifu? I don't think I need to. Yeah, I actually don't hate switching in Calyrex right now. Because I do think Choice Band Close Combat's pretty solid in this endgame. So Dazzling Glacial is my guess on what they go for. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's scary, but I think it's fine because now I just get Kyogre, assuming they're choiced Miraidon, which normally is going to be the case. We haven't seen Life Orb. If it's non-choice Miraidon, then this becomes really scary, but if it's choice Miraidon, the cool thing is I have Choice Specs Thunder into the Calyrex slot. And you're not doing much damage to me in return. I guess the downside there's only one turn of rain left, but I think I'm happy to just click Thunder here in a Calyrex. And protect with my Calyrex. Because then my Calyrex will also beat their Miraidon in the end game. So I'm playing this game hinging off of it being choiced Miraidon. I think it would make sense for it to be choiced given that it hard switched that turn against us. When they could have like switched their moves if they weren't choiced. And likely would have actually stayed in. Kind of just shock let Rock Ogerpon didn't come out in this matchup because I think it's so good into us. But that's the thing, right? Like, your opponent has to identify the right Pokemon to bring into the matchup. Okay, cool. They don't protect. I mean, this is Choice Specs Thunder in electric terrain, so my question is whether or not it one-shots the Ice Rider. But even if it doesn't, I think it's still fine. My fear is that, like, it doesn't KO, and then... Okay, nice. That just demolishes it. Beautiful. Yeah. I totally could have gotten it messed up in this game if it was another item on Miraidon, but, you know, once again, Rhyperior so good into comps like this when you do have Specs Miraidon. So, yeah. I can just give up Urshifu now. And... So let's just double check the board state. Last turn of terrain. Yeah, switch in Urshifu. And Trick Room is always fine. Because I protected last turn with Ice Rider, we obviously don't want to click Protect again. The only scary thing here is that they like crit Dazzling onto us. Even so, I think Kyogre probably is still fine in the end game, and it looks like we would have even survived a crit there. Miraidon without Fairy Tera is just not the most powerful. Yeah, Trick Room gets set up now. Perfect. No more terrain. Now Kyogre comes back in. Choice Specs Thunder was huge for us here, though. Being able to force Water Terras out with this team and then take advantage of it is really nice. So Glacial comes out. Yeah, that's just a one-hit knockout. So I could have gone for Glacial over Trick Room, but I think, you know, Trick Room just gives us more optionality against like a bulky Miraidon. Although, I mean, it's single target there, so actually I don't think it ever is surviving anyway, quite frankly. So probably could have just ended the game one turn earlier. But yeah, I think this game would have been harder if Rock Ogerpon came out and also if Miraidon clicked Draco Meteor rather than Electro Drift. By locking into that, they were kind of forced to switch out, which was really nice. If they click Draco, you get a ton of damage off guaranteed, which is a little bit spooky. But yeah. Hitmontop, that's awesome. Very offensive Kyogre, Zacian, Rain team here with Torn, Landorus, Chien-Pao, Hitmontop. Fun VGC history. Hitmontop Kyogre, aka Top Ogre, was one of the most dominant duos back in 2010, winning multiple regional championships. You know, Hitmontop really valuable because it gets access to Fake Out. Back then, you would use like Mach Punch, which was really cool. You know, Bullet Punch, Sucker Punch. In today's game, like Fake Out, Feint, Close Combat, Wide Guard is the moveset that I would expect. Feint being a huge one to break through Wide Guard. This looks really tricky. How do I beat Tornadus, Kyogre lead, or Hitmontop Kyogre lead? I also don't know what item it is on Kyogre. Amoonguss is probably the answer. Tornogre lead. I gotta respect like Hurricane. It sucks. Like, Jugulis Amoonguss doesn't really... Actually, I think it should be Urshifu, maybe. But this is Grass Terra Urshifu, so I'm so weak to Bleak Wind. Maybe it's actually Jugulis Ursh, then. I feel like Amoonguss definitely should be coming here. I'm actually going to drop Ice Rider here. I don't know if that's the correct decision, because I think Ice Rider under Trick Room actually might be it. But basically, what makes this so tough for me is that they have faster Tailwind, so I can't stop priority Tailwind into Water Spout. And if it's like Specs Water Terra Water Spout, like, I need Amoonguss and Urshifu as resistances. But they go Chien-Pao Zacian. Huh. Okay, I don't hate that for me, I guess. Tailwind, Water, Terra, Spore is the play I'm leaning towards on turn 1. Yeah. They could, however, just like double up onto Amoonguss, Ice type attack, and play Rough, and that'd be bad. This isn't terrible in the grand scheme of things, and this is also why I didn't want to bring Ice Rider. Like, Ice Rider doesn't really do anything into these two, right? Other than close combat Chien-Pao. It's Ice Shard. Wait, we survived. I was like, we're definitely cooked, right? No, we're not cooked. We're totally fine, actually. Wow. I will take it. Okay. Hurricane. Well, you would think they Ice Shard Jugulis, right? So I could switch Jugulis out right now. Chien-Pao might also protect. I think it's fine to switch in a Kyogre here. Spore into Chien-Pao. Quick attack Ice Shard, though. That is definitely unexpected. Ice Shard, Chien-Pao people do use. They're not Life Orb, though. And I think that's actually a big difference maker. Like the Life Orb. And yeah, they protect here, but that's fine. Because now I've gotten Kyogre in for free. And I've set up Tailwind. I think the main question is they could obviously Sucker Punch Quick Attack right now. So I could Rage Powder with Amoonguss. And Water Spout. Yeah, I actually lean towards Rage Powdering here. I would go for priority attacks if I were them. Okay. Yeah, Zacian trying to go for maybe a Protect. They did not try to go for a Sucker Punch, but that's fine. Because we have Rocky Helmet, if you go for, you know, any contact move, you faint. The main interesting thing here is like keeping Chien-Pao on the field intentionally and putting it to sleep. But it's just Throat Chop, that's fine. Okay. So we're up 4-2, which I will take because I thought this matchup looked really scary in Team Preview. Like, I thought Tornadus plus Kyogre would have been so oppressive. But we're not out of it yet. There's still a lot that could go wrong. Ooh, they didn't bring Torn, though. Okay, that's good for us. You should be protecting with your Pokemon right now. Down a Water Spout here. Switch Amoonguss out into Jugulis. Urshifu in the endgame should be very good for me, right? You can just Aqua Jet their Lando. Landorus protects. I mean, you would expect a double protect right now, right? Oh, it's not a double protect. Okay. Wondering if it's Thunder onto the Amoonguss slot. That's so much damage. No, just a Water Spout. Huh. I could have stayed in with Amoonguss and just Spored there then. That was kind of risky by them in my opinion, but I think it's fine. No one peters out. I don't know who's faster between the ogres. If I bring out Amoonguss, you can Water Spout, Sandsear Storm. I think I'm leaning towards Amoonguss here, and then Spore into Landorus Water Spout. Okay, they are Scarf Ogre. That's what I figured might be the case. Then we should be good here. Sandslayer is not going to knock out either. Yeah, nice. We get Spout off. Lando actually survives, but that's fine. I'm surprised by the lack of Tera here on either Pokemon. If it's Scarf Ogre, I mean, I would expect Grass Tera or Water Tera. Like, Water Tera would have given them an increase of damage. But this is fine. Actually, hold on. This game is not 100% one. Well, they're Scarf Spouts. We can always switch in Urshifu, Protect here. Aqua Jet, switch out. Yeah. I mean, I think it actually was 100% one with Ursh in the back since Kyogre's never doing enough, but I don't want to just like carelessly lose two different Pokemon there. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. So thank you so much as always for joining me. Had a lot of fun games in this one, and hopefully I've demonstrated the power of Rhyperior to all of you. This Pokemon is truly underrated, and it put in a lot of work. We used it in a lot of different unique scenarios throughout the course of this episode, and so I'm really happy to get to feature it. But yeah, thanks as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy, and I'll catch you all soon. All right, peace.